We're gathered here this afternoon to kind of talk a little bit to the community of Mundelein Seminary about consecrated life. Several years ago, Pope Benedict XVI named the year to be the year of priesthood, and Pope Francis has named the year 2015 as the year dedicated to consecrated life. So it is our thought that it would be a very important piece of this year is to bring some awareness, some education, some acquaintance with consecrated life, its role in the church, the vocation to the consecrated life, and what that means to people who have dedicated their lives to the Lord through vows, as well as to the rest of the church, and the gifts that people in consecrated life bring to the total life of the church. And for men who are preparing themselves for priesthood and ministry to the Christian community in the church, we think it's very important that they become acquainted with what consecrated life is all about, what its role is in the church, how God calls people to the consecrated life, and the graces that professed religious in the church bring to the overall life of the church.
At the beginning of the third millennium, St. John Paul II addressed those in consecrated life and said, "You have only a glorious history to remember and to recount, but also you have a great history still to be accomplished. Look to the future where the Spirit is sending you in order to do even greater things." So Pope Francis has named this year as the year of consecrated life, and in a letter that he wrote to consecrated people in November, he stated the three aims of this year, which are: look to the past with gratitude, live the present with passion, and embrace the future with hope. And now a little bit about each of those aims. Look to the past with gratitude. Our founders and foundresses saw a need in the church, and so they began their foundation using the charism of that particular group of religious. These institutes grew, matured, expanded, and took on new initiatives, meeting the needs of the church. This year, Pope Francis has said, look at your origins and thank God for what has gone before. Look at the past. Look at the ideals and visions which the founders and foundresses have, and check to see how the charisms have been lived. There have been good times and times when maybe they needed a little work. Thank God for this. Vatican II challenged those in consecrated life to revisit their charism. And so consecrated men and women undertook a fruitful journey of renewal. And there were times of light and shadow, times of grace with the Holy Spirit. Pope Francis says, live the present with passion. Since we're grateful for the past, we're listening to what the Holy Spirit tells us. Our founders and foundresses based the foundation on the Spirit's call to follow Jesus as the gospel teaches. The question today is the gospel a manual for our daily life? The gospel is demanding. It requires us to live radically and sincerely. Jesus wants us not only to read the gospel, meditate on it, but to practice it. We've been asked, is Jesus the first and only love, as we promised he would be at our profession of vows? Only if he is the first can we love each other person. Our founders and foundresses were attracted by the unity of the apostles, and so they sought to replicate these models of evangelical living. So to live the present with passion means to become experts in communion, to witness unity. In this society, cultures have trouble living side by side. There are problems with inequality. There's oppression by the powerful. We in Consecrated Life can offer a concrete model of community by acknowledging the dignity of each person and sharing our gifts. And finally, Pope Francis asks us to embrace the future with hope. There are difficulties in Consecrated Life. There are a decrease in vocations, communities are aging, there are financial concerns, but we're called to practice hope. Be not afraid. Nolite timere, as is written in our chapel. Hope isn't based on statistics or accomplishments, but on the Holy Spirit. The hope which enables those in Consecrated Life to keep writing a future filled with hope. But Pope Benedict XVI says, I urge you not to join the ranks of the prophets of doom who proclaim the end or meaninglessness of the consecrated life in the Church in our day. Rather, clothe yourselves in Jesus Christ and put on the armor of light, as St. Paul says, keeping awake and watchful.
So in the same letter, after the aims for the consecrated life, the Holy Father speaks about the expectations he has on us as consecrated member of the Church. And the first thing, which doesn't surprise us, I think, is joy. He asks us to be joyful witnesses of an authentic fraternity and to be also joyful in the sufferings. And that's not to be irrealistic, it's just to realize that we're never alone and that the cross is part of our lives, and we as consecrated members are also called to show that through our life and through the difficulties of life. Christ is the center, and that's why we can be joyful and the world can be joyful. And then also he talks about the prophetic dimension of the consecrated life. We are all as Christians called to a radical life like following Jesus, each one in his own stage of life. But the consecrated life is supposed to look very closely to the prophetic dimension. He tells us to keep watch for the signs of the time, to know how to see what things are going on, to denounce the evil, like the prophets did in the Bible, to speak out when there's injustice, and to take care of the elderly, the families, the poor, those who need our help, because that's also part of the consecrated life, to watch out for those who need God most, and to remind society about that. And then he also asked us to go out, not to be within ourselves, to be happy that we belong to God and that's fine, but no, to go out, to be available, to take care of the refugees. Even he asked the monasteries to open up the doors, maybe to refugees, for prayer groups, to exchange with others about their spiritual life. So he wants us to bring out the message by living the gospel to the max. Another point that Sister mentioned was to be experts in community, and the only thing that I would like to mention is that we learn to embrace differences between each other, that we learn how to dialogue, how to encounter, because I think in this world it's sometimes we communicate a lot, but do we really dialogue? Are we really interested in the other? Do we know where he's coming from, why he thinks differently than us? And consecrated life is also asked to be a witness of that, because we live in communities which are often very international, and we need to learn this. And it's part of the Church. We are universal and international. So he asked us to live this. At the end of the letter, he writes also to the laity, to the bishops and pastors, and invites everybody to join with us this celebration of consecrated life. And so do we, because it's an important year for us to realize that we are an important part also of the Church, that we serve you, and but we need your help, because all the vocations help each other to live their vocation better. We need the families, we need the consecrated life, we need the clergy, and just together we're one Church, and just together we will bring the message of Jesus Christ to the world in its fullness. So pray for us.